Hello? Knock, knock.
Well, well.
Well, I'll be blowed. Hello, Spanner. How are you, my friend? How's you going? All good?
For seeing you.
Now, here's the magnificent Spanner shed. Now, look, I tell you what.
What are you doing here?
Oh, well, look, I thought I'd come up to Castlemaine's. I've got no friends in Melbourne.
Right,
And I've
okay.
got you're sort of a friend.
Yep.
I've brought my auto glim because I reckon you are renowned as one of the dirtiest people I've ever met when it comes to motorcycles.
Well, washing bikes has never been my strong
Never
point.
been your strong suit. Washing yourself hasn't been a strong suit.
But if you brought that and you're prepared to wash a bike for me,
Well,
I very
it's
much
not
appreciate
so much me doing it, but look, in order to look after our major sponsor, and you,
And me.
and Infomoto, I've brought that along. But what I do want to know, what a magnificent collection of shitters you've got here.
Well, the combined value of them is probably anything up to $800, I would think.
Now, I've never been through this. Actually, the shed's worth more than the bikes by a long way, isn't
Correct. Well, I went overseas for a year and I sketched out what I wanted for the shed and gave it to a manager, a project manager, who did nothing till I got back. So I paid him for virtually doing nothing.
Right.
And I got the
That was
measurements
good.
of the shed wrong, so it's actually a third bigger than I actually wanted.
That's not a bad thing.
Well, it's turned out to be a third smaller than I need.
No.
So,
Why do we
win.
always grow our motorcycle collections to 105% of the available space?
Well, it's a rule. It's a rule of motorcycling. Do you remember this?
I do. Now, didn't we talk on a podcast about this very bike, the allegedly stolen? I don't like to. I tried to put that to rest, the stolen bit. I know that, you know, there are court cases pending, but
The police didn't get in touch after.
no. Well, no. I managed not to answer the door, but it used to be silver.
It's very well disguised, isn't it?
It is. You've done well. You old crim, you.
Yeah.
Tell me about now. Is it going all right now? Everything good?
There is nothing wrong with this bike. It's in perfect working order.
You know what? Underrated motorcycle. The only thing is, they're pretty bloody uncomfortable, aren't they?
Well, I've ridden less comfortable bikes, I have to say. But last week we went down to the Great Ocean Road and I took this because it's a perfect bike for the actual Great Ocean Road.
Right. Okay.
And it's unlike a lot of other collectors, and I'm not going to mention Guy Allen by name.
No, don't.
Obviously.
You know, you don't want to get him in any trouble.
No, but unlike a lot of other collectors, every single bike in my collection does something different.
Yes.
So I haven't got 5 bikes that do exactly the same thing.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't do much.
Well, they do as much as I can manage. But this is my fast bike.
No, they're good. They're really good bike, underrated, and actually a pretty good buy now. I still see them. I nearly bought one when I bought my Blackbird.
Oh, okay.
I looked at a VTO and a Blackbird. A Blackbird made more sense, and you can see why, for distance and comfort and all stuff
yes.
like that.
Yeah.
But I looked at them and they were relatively cheap and they haven't moved much. I mean, I don't think they're ever going to be a collector's bike.
Cheap ones are 3.5. Good ones are 5.
You get a plum for 5.5.
Yeah, not a plum. Plums are more your 6.
More your 6.
6 to 7 now.
7.
Yeah.
God, well, they have gone up a bit now.
Yep.
They were a bit unloved. I don't know really why. I mean, it's a great motor.
Do you think they're attractive?
No.
No. Okay.
Do you think I'm attractive?
No.
Right, so that's covered that off.
Let's get the tour, Spanner. Show us what else you got.
Well, there's a wreck bike that's just arrived that's got bits that I need for...
Is that a GS 1000G?
It is. These are 2
It is too.
Gs, and there's another one down the back. So
I want a GS 1000G. Would
Well-
you part with one?
not one of these, I don't think.
That's Gerald, isn't it?
This is Gerald.
Now talk me through, Gerald's got a great history amongst your friends and a couple of enemies.
First up, I'll tell you what happened to Gerald.
Righto.
This is only a week ago. I'm
Only a
trying to
week
get
ago. It's a fresh
bike
story.
out. See how I've laid them all out?
Yeah, no, I do see
Like
that.
this side by side, like a bike shop in the middle
Yeah,
of the street. used to do.
all on the same angle.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get something out of this spot here. I push this bike, it falls against that one. It falls against that one. It falls against that one. So it was like the cartoon clunk, clunk, clunk.
The domino effect.
Yeah, and all I could do was stand and watch it.
Oh.
So tragically, I broke a side cover on the BMW, and look, Gerald's got a
Oh,
ding in the
shit.
tank.
That was actually the best part of Gerald, the tank.
I know. But
Oh,
it's-
that's a shame.
Gerald's still going great, yeah.
You know when you do something dumb like that?
Yep.
When we've all done it. We've all done...
Well, it's
you're probably a little bit more qualified than most in regard to that, but we've all done dumb stuff. And when you do something like that, you've got to go, you look at that dent and you go, do I suicide or do I move on, don't you?
Yeah.
Because I probably would have
I've
killed
done a
myself if
lot
I
of
put that dent in that tank.
Well,
Hang on, go back.
my most recent purchase is one of these.
What you do at night time with your wife's got nothing to do with me,
I'm going to
Grant.
have a go at pulling the dent out because it's on a more or less flat surface. So I might get away with it.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a love ridge in there.
Well,
You know what you can do? You can
won't
put
be
that.
perfect.
Oh, look, yeah. But it's worth keeping nice, that bike. Now, who owned that bike first of all?
Guy Allen.
Bloody Guy Allen, he's come up again.
We've got a deal.
We should have got him on this shoot.
Yeah, well, you go to his garage.
There'll probably be a lawsuit after this.
We've got a deal that any time any of his bikes drop below $1,500,
Yes,
he rings me and I buy them.
yes. Yeah, that's pretty right, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's been,
So what he does, and God, I'll preface this by saying how much I love Guy.
Yes.
You know that,
Oh, I
okay?
know
So
that, yes.
before I rip him to pieces, I always like to do that, soften him up a little bit. But I do love Guy, and he's the most beautiful person. He goes and buys a motorbike. Now, usually he'll buy it, whatever the person asks for, he pays.
yes. Yep.
Probably a little bit more.
Yep.
Gets the bike, brings it home, and it's got small flaws, as we all have, Grant.
Yes.
We've all got small flaws. You've got, probably more than most. He then takes it to a reputable motorcycle repairer who charges him ridiculous money.
Doubles the price.
Doubles the price. He puts another block of flat seat surface in the portfolio.
Yep.
Guy trundles home on it. You ring up, buy it for the same price that Guy paid
Guy
for it.
paid for it. Yeah, that's right.
And it comes here.
And it's perfect when it arrives.
And he still talks to you, which surprises me.
Gerald's another of this collection that has nothing wrong with it. Everything on it works as it should.
Yes.
And it's a really nice bike. And in fact, it's my preferred summer touring bike.
No, I understand. Look at the seat. It's like the MCG.
Yeah, I know. You could land a plane on it.
Yeah, and really comfortable. Is that the one? Can I just stop you?
Yeah.
And another great friend of ours, Dave Morley. I was at his shed one day and I heard a noise coming from out the back there under the mezzanine, and up popped your head.
Yeah.
And I saw you scraping a head with a cold chisel. Do you remember that day? You're scraping. You say, "No, I've got to get this nice and flat." I think it was a GS 1000G head, and I said, "Grant, that's probably not the tool for the job."
They're pretty agricultural, the engines.
Is that the one? Do you think?
Yeah, except that's probably its third engine. So
Yeah,
God
it's,
only knows how many
it's
Ks
grandfather's
it
axe at this point, isn't it?
This is $1,000 trail bike up in Castlemaine. The crew go trail riding.
Castlemaine, Grant.
Castlemaine.
Yeah.
The crew go trail riding.
Right.
Regularly.
What, the geriatric Jonestown crew that you hang around with?
Well, the motorcycle club.
Yeah, the motorcycle club. Sorry, I got mixed up.
So we head off into the bush, and there's bush tracks everywhere around here.
Yes.
And
Well, it's a bush, isn't it?
we go and find a country pub, and I can lean this up against the wall of the pub and go and have a counter lunch.
Yes.
And then ride through
A
the
light
bush
beer.
on the way home. I can crash; it doesn't matter.
Yes.
And it's
Weren't they a good thing?
well, they were.
What are we looking at? What is this? An XT600?
It is.
Yes. Built about 88 model or something?
And you might
Is
remember
it?
I had an XT500
1948 model. I'm not sure.
in perfect condition, an XT500.
You did.
And I sold it because I was never riding it because I was terrified.
Too nice.
I was going to ding the alloy tank.
Where did this one come from? Guy Allen.
Alex Simpson.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, it was $1,000 very well spent.
Yeah. And it's fine. It's good.
Yeah, well, it rattles a bit. The engine's getting a little on the ancient side.
Is it a mongrel to start?
No.
No, it's good.
Very easy to
Does it start all right hot?
Yep. No, it's an easy starter. It's a good bike to ride too, actually.
Actually, it's not a bad example, is it? Really?
Well, surprisingly, it's complete. So all the bits that came with them originally are on this bike. So
Right.
it could be a good restoration project if you wanted to go down that track.
Yeah. We'll talk about the Norton a bit later.
Yeah, we
the
will.
restoration project that's been going for a while.
This is a bike I bought for
R66?
60/6, yeah. I bought it for my son, the one of my children who ever wanted to ride motorbikes and get a licence.
Oh, Adam was riding it for a while,
Correct.
if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
That's a nice old bike.
And I waited till he was having financial difficulties, and I was able to get it for
Bit cheaper.
very cheap. He still resents.
It's a good lesson for a
hope he
young
doesn't-
person. You know, they need to
watching this
understand
show.
financial responsibility.
They do.
Can this bike, I think I remember you at Leongatha or Currumborough with your head up under it. Do you remember that?
Carburetor was leaking.
Yeah, it's a carburetor. It was like, do you remember that?
Well, it's a 1976 model.
Yes, it is.
So, you know, you can't expect it to be perfect.
Yeah, no, it's a good bike. I like it.
This is this is a terrible story, but you know, I wanted this bike.
This one here.
Yeah, but
The Himalayan.
yeah, but I had to kind of explain to my partner Julia. I said, "Well, would I be able to ride it? Is it a good bike for me?" And I said, "Yes, of course." And so that gave me permission to buy it. But she said it's too tall, so I lowered it.
Right.
Took 40 millimetres off the suspension.
How did you do that?
Shorter rear spring and shorter front springs.
Right.
So it's put it closer to the ground.
Yes.
She said, I can't reach the levers, so they're adjustable levers from England. My hands are too cold. I put,
Bark Busters? Or what do they call them now?
well,
Bark Busters is a brand, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, there's bark busters on that one.
Hand guards.
Yeah, just to keep our hands. So I've actually done more work on that bike than probably any other bike in the shed to make it unrideable for myself.
Yes.
So
But it's a nice
I
thing to
didn't
do for
end
your
up getting what
partner.
I wanted, but I've kept all the old bits. So at some stage I'll continue.
She loves that bike, doesn't she?
She does.
Yeah.
She does. I love it too.
Actually, it makes a lot of sense. Like, yes, you've made some changes because she's not a tall person.
Yeah.
But talk about a non-challenging,
They're so easy to ride.
so easy to ride, and that's what's great about it.
And she enjoys it, and she doesn't want to go over the speed limit.
No,
So it's perfect.
neither do you. From one,
Well, occasionally, that yellow bike up there.
yeah.
It stalls if you go below this.
Oh, does it? Bikes fall over if they don't go fast, or what? How's it go? Now, what about this little cherry? I'm in love with this. Are we allowed to talk about that?
Well, I think so, yes.
I think it's the quintessential colours when I think of Honda.
Well, do you remember at the time there was a green and white version?
I do.
Yeah, so this is the second generation. So
Right.
they made them from 1969 till 73.
So this is a K2?
Well, I don't think they called them K2s,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's the same generation.
Yep. I remember this remember on the early Sandcast K0s, one of the differences was that they had that triangular piece in there, wasn't it?
No, I don't
No.
remember that. Yeah.
Probably
No,
not.
you're
Right.
probably
cut
quite
that,
right.
Spence.
But this is the bike that most riders who are now in their 60s started their riding life on.
Yes.
Everybody owned a Honda 175.
Yes.
Everyone, if they didn't own it, they rode their mates.
Yes.
Because they sold thousands of them.
Yes, they did.
But this is an original. It's not restored or.
It's
just
very
how it's
sweet.
aged. It's 50 years old.
Yeah.
This year.
Do you know, I wouldn't touch the damn thing. It's just lovely how it is, I reckon.
Yeah.
It shows its age. It's a beautiful example. It's funny, isn't it? Like back when we were young, you'd see a CB 175. You wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah.
I walk in the shed and it was the first thing
Yeah.
I see, and it was exciting.
Hold this.
Oh, right.
I'll make this a little
Jesus,
bit more
that's heavy. What have you got in that?
Make this a little bit more exciting. Oh no, what have I done with the key? It's in my key box later. I'll start.
Do it later, Grant.
Yeah, all right.
That was good, that bit you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, it's a lovely bike. I really like survivor bikes like that.
This is a fully restored GS1000G.
Now, where did this one come from?
Oh, it's
Gee, that's a nice bike, isn't
finding
it?
it for a friend who
Can't tell his wife.
may have had too much to drink one night and may be walking for about the next 18 months.
Right.
But he wants it ridden, so he obviously doesn't know me very well if he's leaving.
Gee, that's a really nice example, though, isn't it? It's pristine.
It's everything.
The more you look at it.
Yep. Yep.
So, did he restore that himself, or he bought it
Yeah,
restored?
no. He's done a lot of the work himself on it. It's his pride and joy.
Oh,
And it's a beautiful bike to ride.
It's a lovely
It's
bike.
just like riding them when they were brand new.
Yeah. Look at the headers and everything. Everything's new, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he would have looked at must have got some new old stock parts and
Yeah.
chased up bits and
Mick
stuff.
Hone was very helpful.
Very good, Mick. Old Susie's.
Yep.
He's your man.
Yep.
No, I didn't realise when I walked in just how nice that bike is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's lovely. And
Can you get him drunk and buy it for less than it's worth as well?
Well, I think it's insured for something like 18 grand. So.
Fair income.
Yeah.
Whoever thought GS thousands, much and also are a great bike and remain a great bike. Climbing up the collector ladder pretty quickly. 18 grand?
Quickly? I don't know whether it's quickly, but
Well, and also you can insure things for whatever.
I'll tell you what, you will have noticed this, but of all the bikes of this vintage, it's the Suzukis that are still on the road.
True, true.
You don't see Hondas and Kawasaki's of this vintage in daily use, but you see heaps of GS thousands.
Yeah. Why is that?
Roller bearing crank, so the cranks don't wear out,
Yep.
so the bikes will keep going.
Yep.
The others all had shell bearings and they wear, and it's hard to get the shells to fit properly, and the engines.
So they survive because of
They
that.
survive because of that. Yeah.
And then people are now doing them
Crank.
up.
A pressed roller bearing crank. Yep.
Yeah, lovely bike. You'd ride that round Australia too. You get on that and go.
Yep, and Gerald.
Yes.
The same.
Well, it's got a dint now. I
can
probably
go-
wouldn't, but
You can go to Darwin tomorrow.
thank Christ you didn't push this one over when you.
It was the one beside.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Imagine ringing the bloke up. Oh, you know how I'm looking after you. Pristine, GS. Well,
I would have left the country.
it's a lovely job.
It is. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Is this an Eldorado?
No, it's not an Eldorado. It's an Ambassador.
Ambassador, that's right. It is too.
Yep, this is a Moto Guzzi Ambassador.
It's a bit of a rat bike, that one, isn't it? I don't mean that in a disparaging sense.
Well, it's only done about 25,000 miles. So
Really?
It came from America.
Who owns this?
Well, it's in dispute. You know, possession is, they say,
that's
9/10
true.
of the law.
That's
isn't
true.
it? So-
If you die with it, you own it.
Yeah. So I'm minding it for an unnamed friend.
Right. It feels like there's criminality involved here.
Well,
Maybe there isn't, but
we
it
were
feels
going
like
to-
it.
We were going to go halves in it. So he was, you know, which is a good way to do it for bikes
Oh,
like this.
yeah.
Because you don't ride them.
I
that much.
don't. I'm not a fan.
Well, I was going to suggest you buy into it, Greg.
Well, no, I'm not a fan. I don't like anyone enough to buy a motorbike with them.
Well, except that you go halves with the cost. It stays up here and I ride it.
Yeah, I think there's a flaw in your business model. Yeah, go on. Anyway, press on.
So the problem we've got with it is that the original bores were chrome. They were chrome plated. And
I just want it noted that I let original bores go through without.
Okay.
All right, continue.
the chrome peels off if you don't use the bike. So when it gets hot and cold and hot and cold, and the chrome blisters, and it gets into the crank and it just destroys the engine. So before we start this, we're going to take the barrels off and check the condition of the bores.
So how long has this been off the road?
Well, look, nobody knows because it was an American import. So it went to a guy in Queensland who didn't start it, and it eventually made its way down.
So it hasn't started in Australia?
I don't think so.
Right, good. Okay.
The owner,
It looks very honest.
the Queensland owner said he had ridden it, but there's no evidence of that. So, well, as I say, it's only done 25,000
Yeah.
miles, so it's got a lot of life left in it. And these are beautiful to ride. You know.
Do you know I haven't ridden one, so
Oh well, you'll get your chance.
I'd love to have a ride on it.
Yeah.
And look, what a classic shape. You know, it's goodsy all over, that big back seat hump.
Yep. Very comfortable tourer.
Have a look at the starter motor on it. It's as big as my 175.
Well, it's a car-like engine.
Yes, it is.
Now under here is the Norton Commando. We'll move right on from there.
Can we talk? No, can we? Now, let me just relate a little story, Grant. Come on. Now, I'll do this a little bit at your
Expense.
expense. A few years ago, Grant rang me up. He said, Greg, I've got an idea. I'd like to go and pick up my Norton, who's been restored by a very well-known, great restorer,
Charles Osterfield.
Charles Osterfield, who I always used to call Charlie Oosterhuizen, if I
Yes,
remember rightly,
probably, yeah.
because I couldn't remember his name. Anyway, so long story short, I hired a Prado or something and a nice trailer, picked up Grant. He was with wine, and we went and picked up your commando. And Charlie, you'd written a cheque for to Charlie with more zeros. It was a lot of money. So he brings it home. He said, "Oh, now I'm nearly ready to go with that Norton. I can't wait to finish it."
Well, he started it, remember?
Started it.
Yeah.
Nothing has happened. How long was it? I think it was about 2004.
Well, that's not entirely true.
Is it what? So what have you done?
Wheels. I've rebuilt the wheels.
What, you relaced the wheels?
Yes.
Yourself?
Yes.
Did you?
Well, I did it myself.
Here's me thinking you without any ability. Oh, you finished the...
Wiring.
Yeah, wiring's good.
Yes.
Okay. Come on, let's have a bit of a look at this. Come on, Grant. Anyway, now you're going to tell the full story of a reason you don't ride it? Because it's a death bike, isn't it? It's killed a few people, this bike, hasn't it?
I bought it from John Ruth,
John Ruth, good bloke.
the famous Ruth.
I'm too scared to say John's not a good bloke because he might kill me.
I know.
No, I do. I love John. Good bloke.
I bought it from him when he had a hangover, and I paid $450 for it,
Yes.
which was a lot of money back then. So this is quite a while.
Yes,
ago.
it's an interstate.
It's a 73 interstate.
Yes.
Which was probably the worst
Worst of them.
Yeah. The combat engine, which lasted about 4,000
Yeah.
k.
Super blend bearings.
Well, that's
That's the fix.
Yeah. So this has had that, but yeah, it's done more k's probably in the back of moving trucks than it has under its own.
Well, I know. I towed it halfway around Australia. I know that.
But you've heard it running. So.
Well, I heard it running 20 years ago. I reckon we just put it back on a trailer and take it back to Charlie Eustahuizen and write another cheque.
I've run into Charlie recently, and that's not out of the question.
That's not. But tell me, honestly, now you've always obfuscated a fair bit on this.
Yeah.
And we're old friends, and no one's looking.
Yeah.
Why have you let this? You've got all these other pristine examples, and you've just. There's something about this bike, isn't there?
Well, John Ruth's theory is that the original owner died on the bike.
Yes.
And I thought that was bad enough, but he's subsequently told me that the second owner died on the bike as well.
Yes.
So
now we're getting somewhere.
So, and he thinks that the reason I haven't been riding this is that I'm scared of it.
That's what I think too.
Do you? That's one of the reasons I rebuilt the wheels, because I built them the first time. And I snapped about...
What, when it killed the two people?
I snapped about 30 of the spokes while I was doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And so
it's a black art. I didn't know you knew how to do that.
The ones that didn't snap could be just a 15th away from snapping.
Ding.
So, yeah. So,
in all seriousness, it is a black art lacing wheels, isn't it? Like it's not an easy thing to do.
It's an easy thing to do. It's incredibly hard to do it well.
Right, yeah.
Lightfoot Engineering.
Yes.
Near Mix.
Yes.
He's Australia's
the man.
expert. He's the one to do it. Yeah.
Well, I rarely hear of people trying to do it themselves for that reason, that it is it's a bit of a black art to get right.
Well, in this generation, like in the 70s, most riders did their own maintenance and they did these things.
Yes.
But the bikes would be doing 40 or 50 mile an hour.
Yes.
Tops.
Yes.
So if the wheel collapsed, it wasn't a major disaster necessarily. But these are good for 100.
It still looks like a shit box.
Thanks.
All right, all right. We'll move on from that.
So when you ask me for a ride, when I've got it finished...
I do have a soft spot for these, no comment.
And here's my pride and joy. I went to...
Now, there's a great... Everyone's heard the story 10 times, but...
Really?
Well, I have, I know that.
Well,
I've never heard it told not slurred.
I'm pleased this bike can't talk, because I acquired it in Newcastle when... I wasn't always this wealthy. I acquired it in Newcastle. I walked over to More Parts, the wreckers, with $100 to get bits for the bike my proper bike, and the price of the bits came to $120. So I was prepared to walk home again to Carrington, and I walked past this and it had a sign on it saying $100.
Yeah.
So I gave him $100, rode it for years. When I moved to Melbourne to work on bike magazines, I put it on the train, got it off the train in Melbourne, rode it to work, rode it around for months and months. The camshaft wears eventually because of the poor lubrication.
Well, how long have you had it now?
Wow. I don't know.
Has it got the same motor?
40 years. No.
No, I didn't think so.
There you go. There's the original motor.
There it is there. But it's just
The dog's
in the way. But
There it
the
is.
dog's having a little wee on it.
But it's, look, in all jokes aside, stories like that are the reasons you fall in love with motorcycles.
Oh, yeah.
And I totally get that story. I mean, this bike served you well when you were on the bones of your
Correct.
backside.
Yep.
And you never forget that.
Yeah.
And that's, I think wealthy people must miss that.
You've never had this experience, but sometimes when you work in the magazine industry, you get invited to various functions in lavish hotels, but you can't afford the taxi to get to
No, I've had that.
To get to
no,
the
I've
airport,
had that.
yeah, so-
Or when they take the swipe for the incidentals, you hope it's not going to come up. Like I can't actually go into my 5-star room.
No.
Because I've got no money on my. We've all done that.
Yeah. I've ridden this out to the airport to get on a plane to go to a bike launch.
Yes.
And at this stage, the bike's top speed has been reduced to about 15k an hour.
Yes.
So I had to ride out on the freeway on the extreme left, so I didn't get run down. I put it in the long-term car park. I came back from the launch with enough money to get back into town without it, so I left it in the long-term car park. 4 months later, I went to collect it, and I owed them about $3,500. But because it's so small and light, I was able to push it out the in-gate and put it on the back of the ute and rescue it. And it's had two...
If you had to pay that bill, you never could have got that bike. It'd still be there, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
$84,000 bill.
What I hate about this, although the owners of the long-term car park have changed, but by confessing this, they can go back in their records and say, "Oh, that guy took a ticket out.
Yes.
He never cashed it in."
That's true. Yes. Yeah.
Imagine what the cost would be.
They'll
now.
read this. Not read this. They'll watch
They'll
this.
watch it. Well, no, you
Yes.
could, yeah. But it's a beautiful little bike.
It's a great little bike, and it's in reasonable nick.
It's in
But it's not the 90, is it?
It's in original.
It is only the 50.
Oh well, the 50 was the best.
Was
I
it?
had the deluxe.
You had the 50
Spencer,
deluxe.
Spencer had a 90.
This is just getting its front forks sorted, and there's
Looks like you've done about $2,000 worth of improvements.
Steering
Possibly the
area.
world's ugliest motorcycle, I reckon.
Well, it doesn't look very nice without its clothes on, but when it's fully dressed,
Oh, it's got a head only a mother could. Have a look at this bulbous, rotten lump.
I want to get the auto glim onto this at some stage.
Right, well, it's the right gear to do it with.
As soon as it's reassembled, then
All right.
it'll be.
Well, I'll leave you some gear, special.
Right here, you reckon, Dad? Or
It's the right gear, Auto Glim.
I don't even want to talk about that.
Oh, I know half the story of that. I can't be bothered. Now listen, what about, now you've taken me through all this, and on the way through, I think we've spoken about that bike already
think we
on a
have.
previous issue. I'm an old magazine bloke, aren't I? What I want to know is, and why we specially came, was where's the ting gate?
Oh, the Tingate.
The ting gate.
I was going.
Show me where it is.
I was going to wash it today, so I put it out in the wash bay. Come
You
on,
put
I'll
it out. Come,
Come on, I'll show you.
Come and show me.
coincidence.
Look out. Who's this here? Who's this old shitter?
Hello.
Hello, Brian. What have you got? Don't put that horrible old shit box in with this classy stuff. Hello, Brian. Big Brian Ricks. Who saw this coming?
Who saw this coming? Yeah, well, certainly not me.
This big bad Brian.
But that's not a bad looking R90.
R90, yes. Have a look at that.
Hey,
Have a look at that.
Hey, mate.
You're on camera, Brian.
Good to see you.
So, ham it up a bit.
Right?
Ham it up, you're on camera.
I built this for him.
I don't.
Who
Did,
built this? Look at this beautiful thing.
now, Brian, tell me the story of this R90S while I'm here.
This
Where did it come from originally?
This R90S was in Victoria. It was owned by a man named Eckhart, who was in the BMW club. Mm-hmm. When I got it, it was a wreck, a mess.
Right.
So it's been a crankshaft up rebuild.
Well, the bodywork was buggered and all sorts of stuff.
Bodywork, it had holes in the fairing. The paintwork was done by the mob in Spotswood.
Right.
Melbourne
Spots-
Motorcycle Fairings.
Spotswood, Victoria.
Yes. And
Geez, they've done a nice job.
And a
Was it originally an orange bike? It was.
Daytona Orange. It's an August 1976 build, so one of the last of them that came out.
That's just about the most desirable R90S there is, isn't it? The orange?
Yep, I think so, yes.
Pretty much?
Yeah.
The smoke black was pretty nice
It
too.
was
Yeah,
a nice bike.
yeah.
It was a nice bike.
They're both
Yeah.
variations of it were terrific.
But my mate Phil Marshall did a lot of the engine work and sorted a few things out for us. We had the Source wheels. It originally had the the Leicester mags on it,
Ah, right. Yeah, okay.
which I didn't like.
No, you've got to have the right.
Yeah, but bits and pieces have come from all over the world. This was brand new from Europe. The exhaust system from Europe.
So how long did it take you to assemble everything?
Don't ask those questions.
Oh,
mate.
okay.
No, seriously.
I'm not going to ask you how much money either.
Oh God, no.
No,
Don't tell-
Shirley
don't tell
might be
my wife.
watching. Yeah, that's right.
8 years.
Yeah, that's about stock for something like this.
Look,
You got to
I've
find
wanted it-
bits and.
that's right. And then, look, you can get the like the BMW badges. You can get the later model ones.
Right.
These are ceramic. They're original. They're $220 each.
Yeah.
And there's
So you were fussy.
a little fussy
Yeah,
with it, mate.
oh,
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, why not? You know, as a kid, when you grow up, you want a bike. And I
Yes.
could never afford one of these.
No.
So
Aspirational.
We've got
exactly.
We've got the same deal with Guy Allen. That when this gets to $1,500, I get it.
Yeah. No, I understand. It will too. It'll get to that. All right. Now look, Brian, we're just in the middle of something.
Oh,
you can
sorry,
come and
gents.
watch. Come and watch.
I'll come and watch.
Grant is going to take me through the tin gate, and we've brought some Auto Glim products for him to wash the bike with, which will be fun, won't it?
You heard of Auto Glim, Rixie?
Look at this.
Auto Glim's the good stuff.
Oh, beautiful stuff. That Auto Glim.
We'll have to leave you some too.
This, Spence.
Now tell us about this beautiful bike.
Look at the dust on the. So I dragged it out this morning to wash it, and it's just a coincidence that you've turned
We turned up with the Auto
product.
Glim stuff.
With Auto Glim, yeah.
What were you going to use? Some substandard.
Cheap rubbish.
Dishwashing liquid, as I usually do.
Now this.
I like that because when it dries, it just streaks.
Yeah, that's it. That's what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you use a Stilo pad as well?
Well, only on the tank.
Only on
Only on the yellow tank.
People won't know what a Stilo pad is anymore, will they? Remember the Jex pad? They used to go rusty. If you kept them out too long, they went rusty.
Rob Tingate was an engineer that did a lot of overseas work and local work in racing development for parts and things like that. But his own bike was an SR500, which he developed basically to be the fastest bike down Reefton Spur.
Right.
And he used to give everyone the irrits because it didn't matter what they rode, he was faster than them. So he came up with this bodywork. No one really knows how many there are, but there's probably somewhere between 6 and 8 potential Tingate 500s.
Yes.
This one was built by Peter Jones, who was an Australian champion, Isle of Man racing.
Yeah, I knew Peter when he was at Yamaha.
Yes, he was the technical services manager at Yamaha for most of his later career.
And a very nice bloke.
And a beautiful bike builder.
Yes.
I used to pester him about it all the time, and finally one of his daughters was getting married and he needed the money, so I acquired the bike. But in relation to how it's different to a normal SR500, the shocks are moved further forward on the swing arm. It's got a Tingate exhaust. Rod made cams for them, and you could possibly use larger carburetors than the standard 34s. The clip-ons are Tingate. They're gooseneck, as you can see. You can just lift them up and down the sliders there, so that you can get whatever height you want that you prefer.
Very smart mods to make the bike quicker.
Well, yes, that's right. That's right. But what he's also done with this modification of the suspension is he's raised the bike, so its cornering clearance is a lot better than a standard SR500, which was why he was so fast down Reefton Spur.
And that bodywork?
That's an alloy tank, which is a beautiful piece of work.
Yes.
Roy Bogner did the paint on this. I've messed it up a little bit on that side, but it's fixable. Peter Jones wanted it to be a stock engine because
Yes.
he wanted it to be reliable, as not just fast. But he did amazing things. These are Peter Jones's innovations. the front and back wheels are from an XS 250, but he's cut out the middle of the spokes. So an XS 250 has solid spokes. These have been cut out to lighten them.
Gee whiz.
And he's done all sorts of things to lighten the bike. He's shaved off all the components are thinner. The engine cases are thinner than they would be on a standard bike. What happened as a result of that is Yamaha disappeared. So there's no evidence of Yamaha on this bike except on the Speedo.
Ah, I see.
So for people who don't know about it, they don't know what it is.
Not sure what it is.
Yeah. And look, personally, I reckon it's a beautiful piece of art.
So do I, Grant. It's a lovely bike.
It's a really terrific bike.
It's a piece of Aussie history.
It is. It is. Yeah. And I'm very pleased that it's in my.
And Tingate, Rod Tingate himself, what a gem to have in the industry. I remember when I was building my Commando, he made me some clip-ons, and I can't remember what I paid for them, but it was nowhere near enough for the amount of work that Rod was putting in. And he's done that for many motorcyclists over a long period of time, created bits.
He has, yeah.
Really good bloke and good for the industry.
A great engineer.
Yes,
And last time I saw him, fit and healthy.
good. Yeah, we need those guys.
Yeah, we do, and it'll be terrible when they go. Peter made it look this nice, and I think probably this is the best example. I only know of two.
You wait and see how nice it is after we've given it the bloody auto glim treatment.
I can't wait.
Whoa. But look, can I just, a little anecdote about that bike and you. You've threatened to take it round Broadford and pull on the old leathers
Yes.
many times. And you and I were actually going to have a scratch race at one stage. I turned up.
I don't recall that.
Well, you know, the mists of time, you know,
mists of time.
details are sketchy, but are we going to see this thing in anger?
Well, I rode it in the Geelong Sprints.
Oh, well, shut my trap
Yes. So, which was a terrifying experience.
for everybody.
Well, it was 40 degrees.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I had to let it idle when I was queued up to get onto the starting grid.
Air-cooled
for about
motor.
Half an hour, yes. And I could hear the aluminium dripping onto the road. So it was, you know, I probably won't do that again.
How'd you go over the quarter mile?
I did very well because there was a fault with the timing equipment, and they announced that I'd done an 11.1.
Jeez, that's a good time.
Very good time.
Very good time.
In fact, unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Very difficult to believe.
Yeah. And
Struggling to believe.
Yes.
they did.
Grant's still claiming it though, you notice.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
You would.
Yeah. But it was closer to the time of a stock SR when it was new.
Right. But it's
a little bit better because it's a lighter bike than the stock.
Yes. It's not a high performance GP bike. It's a piece of history, and it's also a small or mid capacity bike that has had, you know, great geniuses apply their little touches to.
Correct.
It's great.
And what a terrific story.
Great story. Well, Grantley, what about the Tingate?
What about it?
How good does it look?
Well, it looks magnificent. I mean, it was a good-looking bike before.
It was.
But the wash, I should do this more often. I should wash
Yes.
bikes more often. And I
And yourself.
I probably will now because
Yes.
look what a difference it made.
It does. It looks fantastic, doesn't it?
Yep.
We can't play noughts and crosses on it now, can we?
No, all the dust's gone, all the rot's gone.
Well, look, it was. We have a lot of fun between us, and we're old mates. But you're a big part of Infomoto, and I've loved coming up to your beautiful place up here in the bush, your country residence.
Yep.
Had a look at a bike that really is part of Australian motorbike history, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't give my address because
I've
I
put
know
it on
how
the
many
internet.
people are going, oh, you've put it on the
Yes.
internet. Wonderful. Well, I'll just kiss the bike goodbye now,
right.
shall I?
Yeah, thank you.
Not wait till someone comes with a truck.
Lots of love.
Good on you, mate.
Good work. You're old,
No, I'm
but you're all right.
I'm in
He's
the
a country member.
He's a country member.
I'm in the prime of my life.
You are.